It's the show that would see dead people if we could be bothered to look. It's a special edition of World of Stu.
You want a podcast? Well, here's a podcast. You want a podcast? It's the World of Stu.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of the World of Stu. We're taking a deviation from the scheduled programming because I have something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while now, and that's have two men on my show. I was going to say two men in my bedroom on my show, but that sounded like the wrong thing to say. So who are the two men in question? You've kind of heard their voices there, but before we introduce them, let me give you a rundown of where you can find them. They do Movie Heaven, Movie Court, the Pancast Movie Show, Live at the Shed, That's No Moon, It's a Podcast, Explore Some Spoilers, Track by Track, and a number of live shows live from the mecca of all the podcasting entertainment, Cirencester, which, for those of you who don't know, is in Gloucestershire in England. Who am I talking about? Of course, it is Pavo and Neil, the Pancast Boys. So, like I said, I've been wanting to do this pretty much ever since I was in the shed with you guys for Movie Heaven way back, probably 18 months ago now, something like that.
Must have been about that, yeah.
So, but obviously I didn't have the forum to do it until the World of Stu was created. Again, that has only been made possible by being inspired by you boys.
I'm going to start crying.
Please don't. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to get you guys on the show. Well, even if it wasn't a show, I've always just wanted to be able to sit down, because I've had conversations with Neil before when we've been at Pavo, when you've been performing live in Cirencester, because not only is he the podcast king, he also sings. I mean, come on, give the rest of us a break.
I want a break. I don't know about anybody else. So do I. My ears can't take it very much.
Yeah, so I've had discussions with Neil about the history of Pancast, but I basically wanted to start from the beginning. And the first question, I guess, would be, how did the two of you find each other?
Well, I can answer that. We were at a bus stop in Cirencester. Now, I've known Pav a long time before. Quite a while before we actually got together. But we were both on our way to a podcast convention, actually, because that's something we've always wanted to do, be podcasters. And I can't remember where we were going, though. We had to do... Was it London? It was on the outskirts of London, wasn't it? It was on the outskirts of London, yeah. So, I was going about my podcast that I wanted to start up, which was just about films in general. Pav was going about his, which you still never told me to this day. I would rather not divulge what my first podcast was about, because it's a bit embarrassing. Which you didn't tell me on there. And so we had a bus drive together, a good 2.5 hours. Bus drive, it sounded like we were driving it. But yeah, no. Obviously we weren't. It was like summer holiday with Cliff. Everybody was dancing down the aisle of the bus. So we went to the first and last ever podcast convention of similar-minded geeks, because they don't seem to do it anymore. It was Wealdstone Town Hall. Oh, that's right. That's where it was. Yeah. Which isn't there anymore. It's a Lidl now, I think. So you went back, have you? I haven't been back. No, I just remember seeing it on. It was on our first ever, or something like that. I can't quite remember. Okay, yeah. So so we had a bus journey together, and we both were talking about doing podcasts. And the original podcasts were going to be about animals. Pav's got a love of dogs. I've got a love of dolphins. Not that I've got any dolphins. No. I must say it's cruel to keep them in. Well, you said that you wanted to do a podcast with purpose.
And that's the sort of jokes you can expect from the Pancast Movie Show. And we will now get Pavo back in about 10 minutes' time.
So, for the love of the animals, God's sake. We spoke about doing animal-based podcasts, but when we realised that animals don't really make great guests to talk to,
No.
we just...
Then, because the thing was, I mean, I'll tell you now, Stu, because obviously no one's listening. That my original podcast was about the theatre, and the one story that I love is Peter Pan. So that was where our name came from in the end. That's why we call ourselves Pancast.
Okay.
I don't know whether I actually ever said that to you originally.
Well, I knew
what the name was.
I mean, I knew you sort of like the theatre. I mean, I could tell with all the CDs and vinyl that you've got lined up in your house. You know, The Sound of Music, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and you constantly playing it in the car and on your iPod. I knew, and I also was always I knew that you loved ballet as well, so I always had my suspicions about you.
I've always had that kind of bent. But yeah, so that's where it originally came from.
So neither of you had any. Pavo, did you actually do a podcast about the theatre, or was it just an idea?
It was the idea. To be fair, I didn't have anything that I could record into. So I had the idea to do it, but I had no means. A bit like you said when you came to you came 18 months ago, but actually had no way of getting it out or whatever. And then the only reason I found out about podcasts was because of Ricky Gervais. I used to listen to all of his podcasts, but because it was someone famous, I never thought that just normal people, anybody could just record something and put it out onto the internet. I never thought that.
Well, before we did that, I mean, we did all the trial ones on an old cassette tape where you press the play and record at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is, I know, is really old school, but it was the only means of recording we had, so that's what we practiced on.
I used to do that when I was a kid, pretending to play
a DJ.
Yeah, pretending to be Steve Wright.
Oh right, okay.
No, Steve Wright's a bit.
Could have been.
Pretend to be Tony Blackburn, Dave Lee Travis.
No, you don't want to be Dave Lee Travis.
Yeah. He was my idol.
Is that why you got a beard?
I think that's why I like boobies so much.
So before we had the first Pancast show, then neither of you two had any sort of broadcasting experience.
No, I used to shout from my window really loud.
And I was constantly sending tapes of me counting down the top 40.
That was just going 40. 38.
And I used to occasionally get on a few hospital radios.
Yeah.
I did the...
Did you have a radio name?
No, not really. Just
No?
Neil.
Oh.
DJ Neil.
DJ Nelly Neil.
No, I wasn't that, creative back then.
No.
But I did get on to the Born on the Water geriatric unit hospital radio. That was good. Used to liven it up a bit by putting a bit of death metal on.
The older the people are, the better it is because you can just play the one song over
I know.
again.
Well, I used to wake them up, but they were like a captive audience because they couldn't move. So you used to put their headphones in, walk around before you started the show, and they couldn't pull them out, and you just do what you wanted to do.
That's a good way of doing it.
So how far back were you interested in broadcasting then? The reason why I asked that is obviously my original broadcasting began on FM 107 The Falcon in Stroud, which was November 98 that launched. So did either of you have any sort of inklings that you wanted to do that sort of thing then?
Well, I can remember being interested in going into hospital radio when I was about 13, 14, so God knows what year that was.
1947.
Yeah, I can remember my dad taking me. It was I was in Stroud for hospital radio, and he must have known somebody, and I went down and watched it for like one night, and then never went back for some reason.
But you don't know why you didn't go back.
No, I think I've always, whenever I used to play my 7-inch singles, I never used to just play them. I would put them on, and as they started, I would go in, well, that's Boney M with Rivers of Babylon, and then when the song finished, then I would quickly get another song. I never had two turntables. I would pretend that I had my own radio show.
Well, I initially wanted to go into announcements, but I used to love the old radio announcements and on the BBC. That program was, and all that, before when the world used to spin on the BBC, I always wanted to do that. That was all I wanted to do. Just say, coming up next is Top of the Pops.
Yeah. That must be an easy job, a great job. See, ITV used to be different because it used to show you the host. Remember that? Derek Hobson and people like that.
Whereas BBC, you just sat behind a microphone and had the BBC voice.
And to be fair, you could have just recorded everything and then spent the day in the canteen.
Yeah.
You could have been the voice of Big Brother.
Oh, see, that would have been good.
A Gloucestershire voice of Big Brother. Today on Big Brother.
See, that's the thing. I don't think like my accent is very good for radio because it's a very thick, broad. I feel it sounds a very thick, broad southwest accent.
I'm not sure that really matters. I mean, I got away with it for 18 months.
18 months. Yeah. You want a longer career than that?
Short version of the story: the station got bought out by a bigger station who wanted, shall we say, more professional sounding DJs.
You see, well, that's just accent-ish, isn't it?
I don't think it was the I don't think it was the accent. It was more the likes of I would play 2 songs in an hour.
Right. But you see, now this is no disrespect to like any of the BBC radios locally or whatever, and we love people like Claire Carter and Jess Bracey. We love all them, but the sort of the tight ropes that you have to walk and the guidance. I don't think we would last one afternoon of a show.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Because you have such tight guidelines you have to stick to.
Well, if anybody knows where we've got a radio show now, which is the Pancast movie show. Excuse me. And if you know it, I mean, I'm not going to lie to our folks out there. We have to pre-record it.
Yeah,
we do. Just because things slip out a lot.
Things do slip out. You tend to just shove them back in your pants.
Yeah, and it's a good job we're not on a live stream, like video. No. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah in here sometimes, isn't it? Yeah. But it's fun. You should come in one time, Stu.
So, we've covered where you guys met each other. So my next question is probably more to be answered by you, Pavo. And that is, why the shed? And the reason why I asked that is because going back to the original time I met you guys and did Movie Heaven, I'd listened to your previous shows and it was like coming to you live from the shed and so on. And I didn't actually picture a shed. I actually thought it was just, you maybe were doing it in a room in your house and you were just calling it the shed for a sort of gimmick name. Little did I know, when I arrived at your house, that it was indeed in a shed.
It was a shed, yeah. I mean, when me and Neil had decided that we wanted to do podcasts together, I knew that we couldn't do it in the house, and
well, I was only just moving in then, wasn't I?
Well, you was, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
we don't talk about that.
No, a bit awkward.
It's a bit awkward, yeah.
So
I decided. I mean, it's not a massive space, as you know, Stu. It's not 4 people in here, and then we're pretty much
an orgy.
Pretty much sort of touching each other in funny ways. But it's again, from when you were here, Stu, to what it looks like now, it's completely different. With posters and bits and pieces up on the wall, it's just a geek's paradise.
It's like a geek's cave.
It is.
Geek's Aladdin's cave.
Yeah.
You also touched upon, you said when you guys met on that fateful bus journey, as we're now going to refer to it as, that you didn't have any equipment at the time. So obviously I've been to the shed and I've seen your setup. So
you've seen our equipment. Yeah.
I've seen your equipment, yes, indeed. And so that was all brought in after you guys decided to start doing it then?
Yeah, Neil sort of started branching into the technical side of it, and I'm by no way a technical expert when it comes to this stuff, but you sort of learn on the job, if you like. You learn as you're doing these things. And the first month or so, when things weren't going quite right in regards to getting things up on iTunes and and
SoundCloud.
and paying for all of the licenses and all of that sort of stuff. You don't know quite what you're doing and why you do it, but you learn as you go on. And now again, it's very kind when you say, you know, that you picked the bug up from us, if you like. That to me makes it everything that over the last 2 years worthwhile. If you make somebody else, I mean, like we've always joked and said that if we could clone 100,000 of you, we could pretty much take over the world, I think. In regards to how much you follow us, your feedback you give us, you know, the different things that you say, and you know, in regards to the movie show or anything, you know, to me, that's the sort of stuff. That's the reason that you do it, because it certainly isn't for making money. If anyone goes into podcasting thinking they're going to do it to make money, unless they've got a phone book full of top Hollywood stars, that's not what they're going to do.
Oh, you could have told me that before. I wouldn't have bothered.
Yeah, but you know, that's the thing, is the fact that.
But we don't. I mean, all seriousness, we don't do it for the money or that sort of operation. It's to meet new people, make new friends, and introduce people to new stuff, and just share the love of what we love doing to everybody else. And you know, the likes of you now doing it, it's really touching. I mean, the more people podcasting, the greater. You know, as long as they're not as good as us, then
No.
it's good.
Well, you mentioned there about, you know, bringing new things to people, but the feeling I get from the stuff that you guys put out is that you certainly have your finger on the pulse of all things local entertainment around your way. Now, were you involved in any of that prior to Pancast, or is that all come about because of Pancast?
Well, Pat's always, like we said, been into musical theatre, so he would go around before he did his other type of singing. I've got to be honest for him, it wasn't entirely successful.
No, I've always had my finger on the nub of youth.
Yeah, he used to go to the pubs, and rather than doing household favourites, he would do the greatest 20 musical numbers.
Yeah.
And he didn't get a lot of audiences, and the booking slowly dried up, and eventually he obviously had to go into normal music.
Yeah, but you want to try and do Miss Saigon on an acoustic guitar.
I know, but you don't do it in the middle of the rock cafe in Cirencester.
Well,
It didn't work. That's what I was trying to say to
Well, I
you.
know that now.
Yeah, but that's, you know, and trying to bring it back is not going to work. You can't put Miss Saigon because you can't get a helicopter into the vaults.
I can do a good helicopter sound.
Yeah, but it's not going to work. You've got to pick all those. You've got to pick all those poor Vietnamese refugees up. You're not going to. It's not going to happen in the vaults. So just asking Mr. Chan from the local wonky chip shop to come in and keep going round in different costumes is not
I
going to.
remember doing Make 'Em Laugh from Singing in the Rain.
Okay, yeah.
I thought it was a mirrored wall,
Oh, yeah.
but it wasn't. I just ran straight through.
You know, but that's where we started, and we got to know certain people that would watch him. You know, we got a lot of sympathy guests to begin with.
Yeah.
But you know, we love them all.
And it's worked.
Yeah. So through those sympathy guests, we get more guests.
I think it's what we've said to you before. Last year, it's about the ripples, about you joining on other. You know, you have somebody as a guest. They will then go and tell somebody else they had good fun in the shed. And then it makes it easier then to email or Facebook. They just come on being, oh yeah, I heard that was good fun, and that's how it works. It's just building that network.
I guess the best example of that would obviously be Mike, because from Mike you got all the subconscious people.
Exactly.
And that's a prime example of. I mean, I didn't realise that my cousin knew Mike. I mean, how did we find out about Mike? I can't remember.
It might have been
somebody said to
might
us,
have been Ben, actually.
it might have been Ben, yeah. And then, like you say, I mean, we've sort of become sort of good mates with Mike now, and because of obviously his links with Subconscious, and well, I think we had a good 5-6 podcasts.
And it's just friending people as well, you know, just going for it. Like Pav said, you get a like on Facebook, and then we'd friend them and become friends with them, and then message them. just take a punt. I mean, we became friends with Bobby Ray Schaefer, who was in The Office, the American Office, and got to then do more podcasts about a new film being made called They Want Dick Dixter. We did that one. And through those, obviously, going back actually, Mike did us a great service. He got his brother. I don't know whether he tells many people who his brother is, does he?
No, probably not.
But we'll say it's Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
We got Simon Pegg to retweet our link to his podcast, and doing that, we got an extra sort of 15 listens. I think
it was 16.
Yeah. But doing that, it was just fantastic.
Yeah. Now, it's clear to anyone who's listening to this or to any of the stuff that you put out that you get on, that you're good buddies and that you bounce off each other. You are, for want of a better phrase, the perfect marriage. You are like Morecambe and Wise, you are like the two Ronnies.
I would say we are the perfect marriage in the fact that there's no sex.
Yeah.
Which is like a normal marriage.
Not for the want of trying.
So, leading on to that, what are your individual roles within the Pancast world? For instance, who organises the guests, who writes your questions, who comes up with ideas?
To be honest, the questions, they were just, usually we made them up on the spot, I suppose. But we brainstorm things. That's how we do it.
Yeah, I would say that when it comes to doing actual podcasts, we don't have anything written down as such. You've got the basic questions, and on the special podcasts that we've done, we've gone in with no prior sort of questions or things written down. And I think that's the best way we like to do it, because the one thing we've always done is we don't want to know too much about our guest. We want to know what they do roughly, because then we are learning the same as the listener. So we are asking questions that we want to know, and hopefully the listener will then want to know, rather than coming out with the same questions. And then you go off on tangents, which is what makes it even more, even more interesting.
But I mean, like Pat said, we've got the spine of the questions. So like Live at the Shed and Movie Heaven, we have 10 sort of basic questions, and from those basic questions it'll lead off to other things. But to write those questions, we just sat down and worked them out together. Likewise with everything.
For the live shows, we'll just sit here and one of us will think of something that will make us laugh,
and we'll do it,
and then we'll expand on that. And the thing is that we don't care if anybody else doesn't laugh, as long as we're here laughing our heads off. We don't, that's good enough for us. But when it comes to things like the other jobs, I used to book all the guests when we first started. Neil's sort of taken that over a little bit now, and I don't know whether it's my quest for power that I like to do a lot of the stuff, but Neil's taking a lot of that stuff with me now, because
and a megalomania.
I can't type properly now.
Why? Because you got big fingers.
Yeah, well, to be fair, like two of my fingers are not quite working, so the same one on each hand, which is quite funny. And I'm just like a one finger typist, so at the moment I'm having to use my ring finger on each hand to type, which is, if you try and do that, that's really, it's got a weird feeling. So there's something wrong with my fingers at the moment, so Neil's doing a lot of the admin sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very strange.
Moving on from your medical history.
Bit personal. I'm hoping you wouldn't bring that up, Stu, to be perfectly honest.
I do apologise to you and your digits.
That's okay.
And his chubby Shrek fingers.
Where does Ahoy Hoy come from?
The sailor background, really.
Your sailor background?
Yeah, I was in the Navy, and I was the guy up on the crow's nest who used to shout, "Ahoy hoy, land ahoy!" And that's it.
He didn't do that very long.
I wasn't really suited to the Navy.
No. You haven't got sea legs.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so what has been 2 years now? Is it Pancast? 2 years old?
Over 2 years.
April.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what has been individually your greatest Pancast moment thus far?
Highlights would be going to LA. That would be a huge highlight. In all seriousness, I've got to say that.
I would say the live shows.
Individually, the live shows, especially the anniversary shows, have been a huge thing. May not seem a lot to some people, but selling out the Barn Theatre in Cirencester, which is what, 100-seater theatre, and selling that out twice on the trot, it's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
But the highlight for me is working with Pav.
I'm waiting for Pavo to reciprocate.
No, he won't, because he
nice.
can't get rid of me.
That's nice.
I've even moved in, and they're just, I know they're sick of me, but I can't go.
Is he trying to replace you with Loz?
Sorry?
Is he trying to replace you with Loz?
Oh, no, he gets a bit jealous of mine and Loz's relationship.
Yeah, no, they've got an understanding, those two. They're quite tight, those two. I'm the one that's sort of the odd person. If they knew how to work the soundboard and stuff like that, I wouldn't be even on the show on a Thursday. So
He would just for singing.
Yeah. Oh no, because even they take over that now. They do they've been doing duets together. We had to have Stephen Hawking come in last week because
you're a little strong. Yeah.
I don't think we should go there with Stephen Hawking, to be honest. So
I like Stephen Hawking.
I know you guys hate this, and it is one of the things that you laugh at me about is negativity, because I'm not sure what you're talking about, because I'm not negative at all. But what would be your worst moment in the 2 years of Pancast?
The worst moment? Oh, God.
And you're not allowed to say right now.
No.
This is luck.
I'll tell you what my worst moment, and that was the podcast that we did with Keris Nelms.
Oh, God.
And we've been recording for 50 minutes. We took a break. I went to go and press on the computer, and the whole podcast disappeared. So we then had to re-record the first 50 minutes of the podcast, go through the same anecdotes, asking the same questions, getting the same answers. She was an absolute diamond about it. She was fantastic, but it was embarrassing. It was just awful. And so the hour and a bit podcast took about 2.5 hours to record. It was awful.
And Neil?
Worse, I genuinely can't think of any. That would be one of them. I mean, it wasn't anybody's fault. There was nothing we could do about it. But I genuinely don't think we've had any bad moments doing it. Everyone we've had a laugh. Everyone it's never been where we thought, oh God. Even the guests, even some of the guests that didn't have that much charisma, we still had fun doing it our end.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So there hasn't really been one, and I don't think there will be. And
We've been very lucky.
We have been so lucky.
We dodged a couple of bullets on a couple of guests that never turned up. But
finding out about them afterwards.
Yeah,
but even then, I don't think we'd have had a bad time. It wouldn't have been if they had come in. It would have just been listening to a lot of Billy Bull poo, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I was glad Rolf Harris cancelled.
There's a new T-shirt, Billy Ball Poo.
Billy Bull poo. That's a new character for the PM.
I didn't know. I mean, I don't know what your views are swearing on. We don't swear that much anyway, so.
Swearing? Oh, I fucking hate it.
I was just being really bullshit. So it's Billy Bullshit, there we go. But Billy Ball Poo works. But Billy Ball Poo.
Billy Ball Poo actually works better.
Yeah. I used to play for Leeds, didn't he? Leeds United.
It could be Cornelius' cousin or something called Billy Ball Poo.
There's an exclusive forthcoming on the Pancast movie show.
Yeah.
So what does the...
But that's exactly how things happen. When we're doing stuff, that's how it happens. We'll say something or get in the moment of having a laugh or a stupid time, and something comes of that.
Yeah.
And that's
one of the classic examples is on the soundboard. I've got the sound of the jail door, which is where we keep Cornelius, and I accidentally pressed the sound of a normal door opening, and so straight away we went, oh God, looks like Cornelius has just walked out. And from that, we then had Dick Poop, the private eye, had to look, to try and find Cornelius. So we had like 3 or 4 weeks, probably longer, of the whole of building up Dick Poop as this bumbling private eye, just because I pressed the wrong button on the soundboard.
And he gave us some giggles.
And he gave us a lot of giggles, yes. I'm sure Dick...
As you've probably noticed, you do giggle a lot.
Really? No, I can't say I've noticed. So, closing up this particular section, I just wanted to ask, what does the future hold for Pancast?
More of the same, I would have thought. Hopefully bigger guests.
There's part of me that wants to really build it, and there's part of me that really wants to move on to the next level. And no disrespect to any of the guests that we've had, but move on to
the next level of guests,
sort of nationally known guests, if you know what I mean. You know, because we love doing it with where it's local people and people that locally are known. But to move up to that next level, we've got a lot more friends and fans in America now.
We have.
And so we've managed to sort of link that with there's somebody, the group of people that do a certain Star Wars podcast. We spoke to the host of that, and that was a really good podcast on That's No Moon, and very kindly they gave us a little mention on their podcast last week. So hopefully we're going to talk to all of those. We've got the guy that played Boba Fett in the special edition of A New Hope, with a guy called Mark Austin. We're hopefully going to have a chat with him sometime. So it's things like that. What's his name? The guy that directed They Want Dick Dixter is Chris Olin Ray, and his father, Fred Olin Ray, is somebody that directed a lot of the sort of movies like Brain Slasher, those kind of 70s, 80s B movies. So those two guys would be really interesting to talk to. So that, for me, that's what I'd like to do. But also,
absolutely, well, we're trying, aren't we?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get, mega busy and famous with it. I'd like it to be just that little bit lower than that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey, I just say wherever it goes, it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, as long as at the end of the day, as long as we're still doing what we're doing and having fun.
Yeah.
That's what it needs. But we are certainly, as I say, we'll still be interviewing people at the local level. That won't stop. But we're also trying to bring in the people, breaking down that sort of wall that surrounds certain areas and go above it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So with the wonderful joys of Skype, as you're finding out, the world's our oyster now.
It's still things like, for me, Simon Pegg and Kevin Smith are the two people that are my...
Yeah, we got very close, didn't we, with Ralph Garman.
Yeah.
Very close. We got the Ralph Garman interview, which was good. Keith Chegwin. That was a highlight. I love that. That was really good.
That was a good one, yeah.
Okay, so that closes up the questions that I had about the history of Pancast.
Wonderful.
So, moving swiftly on.
Okay.
Because obviously I'm a movie geek, you guys are movie geeks, we have to end this by talking about movies.
Okay.
Now, I first met you guys through Movie Heaven, where you quizzed me about my movies. So what I've done is come up with a couple of questions about your particular favourite movies and tried to keep it as different from what you ask people as possible. So...
Well, yeah, we'd have to sue you if you had the questions of this.
Well, yeah, and I don't have any money, so...
No, snap.
Yeah. So, what is your favourite genre of movie? I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway.
What would you say what do you think we are, as it were?
I would have to say Pavo is probably rom-coms, and Neil's is operatic masterpieces.
He knows us so well.
He does.
Well, I'm going to say for this, it's pretty much the same as my musical tastes, is that I don't have a favourite genre. I just like particular... If there's a movie, if there's a rom-com that I like Four Weddings and a Funeral, I like rom-com. If it's a horror film, Evil Dead, I like Evil Dead. If it's a sci-fi, Star Wars, action film, Avengers, whatever, I don't really care in regards... there isn't one genre that I would say, no, I don't like, or one genre that I would say that I do like. I just like whatever films. It's the same for me like music. I don't like any particular music.
Do you like art house films?
It depends what it is.
Okay.
Like what?
The Three Colours trilogy.
Oh, love it.
You've never seen them?
No.
They're great.
But yeah, that's my answer.
I would probably have to agree. I know it sounds a bit boring. It's really hard to just narrow down one genre that would be my favourite. There's bits in everything that I love.
That is boring.
Does anything else? Does something overtake another? No. No, I don't know. It's my elephant sound. I'm calling the elephant out in the garden. No, I don't know. You could bunch a load into action maybe, and I don't know. I just can't think of one particular genre.
Okay, so we'll skip forward, and I think this is probably the most predictable question on the list. Your favourite movie of all time?
Well, for me, we did the commentary on it yesterday. Did it last night. It's Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope for me. Has to be. I'm going to say the same.
No, I'm not actually, because in the original trilogy, I prefer Empire Strikes Back.
Right, okay.
That's my favourite. But as a favourite all-time film, again, I've always said to myself I'd like to do a top 10 where I go down 10 to 1 and number 1 being my favourite, and it's changed so often that I still can't narrow it down. There's loads that I admire. So Empire Strikes Back would be up there. The Godfather would be up there.
It has to be one. Come on, where's
You don't allow people to pick more than
I'll tell
one.
you what, I'll go for my movie Heaven answer. So people that haven't done it, but this will also be for if you do ask us. I'm assuming you're going to ask the same questions as you sent me. Probably the same answer for that is a non-Star Wars film. I'll go Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's my movie Heaven. I absolutely adore that film. It's perfect in every way.
Okay, so that covers the next question from Neil, because I anticipated that you would both answer Star Wars, which Pavo did. So, Pavo, what is your favourite non-Star Wars movie of all time?
Right. Originally, I did think the same as Neil. It does show sort of like how very close in regards to everything we are, but Raiders of the Lost Ark, probably very, very closely followed by Avengers Assemble. Now, I know that, if I can remember rightly, you weren't too keen on that, Stu, were you?
I didn't mind Avengers Assemble. It's Age of Ultron that is pants.
Right, yeah. But for me, I mean, Avengers Assemble is probably the greatest film in the last 20 years that I've seen, probably. But Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of those movies that is pretty much nigh on perfect.
No, I can't think of any bad bit in it.
In the same way as Star Wars. I don't think there's actually too much between them. For me, I mean, Star Wars tops them all just because of what it means to me personally, as a child and things like that. I mean, the same with Indiana Jones, but yeah, Avengers Assemble is very, very close for me.
Okay, so what is your least favourite movie of all time?
Oh, I can answer that straight away.
Go on then.
Can you guess what it is?
Titanic.
Yeah, I freaking hate that film. I absolutely hate Titanic.
Can I tell you, actually, Titanic is the only time I've ever been to the cinema, and I only went to watch it to impress a girl, and I agree with you, it's a terrible film. It's the only time.
Awful.
It's the only time.
I was a smoker back then, and I went out. I must have smoked a pack of 20.
Yeah, it's the only time I've ever been in the cinema, and the entire audience has stood up and applauded at the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I hated every minute of it. All I kept thinking throughout the movie is just hurry up and sink the bastards. I hated the main characters. I hated everything about it. I don't know. And I have been back, people have said, oh, you're too harsh about it. Go back and have a look. And I've gone back and tried to watch it, and I'm sat there again with the same feeling of just despair when it's on. I hate it.
Pav, what about you?
I have to say something like Hot Chicks, which does make me sad.
White Chicks.
Sorry, White Chicks. Yeah.
Did
I say Hot Chicks?
You're thinking of the wrong film.
Yeah, I don't mind that one. No, White Chicks, sorry, which does make me feel sad because the guy that wrote that is a guy called Andy McElfresh, and he does a podcast called Edumacation with Kevin Smith. So anything that's got to do with Kevin Smith's network, I mean, he's a very funny guy on the podcast, but it's movies like that, or any of these teen school movies, apart from Mean Girls, I don't mind Mean Girls, but those kind of movies, but they're obviously not for me, they're not for my demographic at all, but they're just movies that make me want to rip my eyes out, those kind of things, and I haven't seen it, but 50 Shades of Grey I'm sure would really piss me off.
Oh, that was awful. But it was just boring.
I just wouldn't bother watching that. I know it wouldn't be no point. But yes, White Chicks I think for me is the one that I would just avoid at all costs.
Okay, so going back to more positive vibes, favourite actor or actress?
Well, I used to I have a few favourite actors, but we're talking when they were great. Robert De Niro, can always watch his early stuff, along Keitel. I think he was a great actor. Still is, actually. Actresses I love to watch. Julianne Moore, I've got so much respect for her. Kate Blanchett, I love. She seems to be sort of just effortless in what she does. What about you?
When you say, do you mean actor or movie star?
Actor.
Actor. What? No, either. Take your pick.
Well, my favourite movie star, you've got people like George Clooney and stuff that I don't class them as actors. They're movie stars. But Harrison Ford is the ultimate movie star. Not a fantastic actor, and we've talked about this.
Yes, we did.
Which podcast we talked about?
We did one. We spoke,
on a movie show.
We spoke about it last night.
Yeah. He's not a fantastic actor, but he is a perfect and a classic, my number one movie star. For an actor, again, we spoke about this. I think someone like, it's got to be somebody that can do everything, and somebody that is a bit of an everyman. So someone like Tom Hanks, who can do everything. He can do comedy, he can do drama. I mean, no spoilers, but the last 5 minutes of Captain Phillips
is just phenomenal.
It's heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really do much, but just the acting, and there's anybody, even someone with a cynical heart like you, Stu, if you watch the last 5 minutes of Captain Phillips, it will just destroy you. It's amazing acting.
We mentioned Jack Lemmon's another one.
Jack Lemmon is another one of the actors that I think is just one of those guys.
I find old actors, me Stewart.
Yeah.
I find him. I can watch him not just for It's a Wonderful Life. I'm a huge fan of a film called Harvey. I think his performance in that is just so good.
Yeah, and Clint Eastwood. I think a lot of people don't. I mean, he's just one of those guys that he just oozes cool. It doesn't matter what he does.
No.
You know, in some of his iconic roles, he's another guy that I just really.
Perfect World. Do you remember that with Kevin Costner? Such an underrated film.
Kevin Costner's another one. I love Kevin Costner. I think he's really interesting actor.
Can I just point out that you both disappointed me by not giving the most obvious answers, which are Bruce Campbell and Jennifer Tilly.
Well, but see, Bruce Campbell, and I can't remember. I think when I listened back to the last movie call, I asked you this question: do you think that Bruce Campbell has fulfilled his potential? Because as far as I'm concerned, Bruce Campbell is somebody that could have been a George Clooney. He's got the looks, he's got the acting prowess, he's got the humour, he's got the smouldering good looks. But he seemed to want to just not. It's no disrespect to his movies, because I think The Evil Dead are fantastic movies, all three of them. And Bubba Hotep is one of my favourites. I love that movie. But he took a different path to someone like George Clooney. But I love Bruce Campbell. I really do. Jennifer Tilly, fine pair of breasts.
That's pretty much summed up my appreciation of her acting skills as well. So, final question. What is your secret pleasure movie? A movie that might not necessarily be considered a classic or great, but is just one that you have somehow found some strange connection to and love.
I've got one called The Wanderers. I don't know whether it's highly regarded. Don't know whether many people watched it. Philip Kaufman directed it. It's sort of in the 70s, but it's based in late 50s, early 60s, I would assume. Early 60s. Just about New York gangs. The Italian gang, Chinese gang, the African-American gang.
Is that at the same sort of time as The Warriors, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's a lot more subtle. I'm surprised you haven't seen it, because it's got Karen Allen in it.
Right. It's also got Matey Boy, the big bald-headed guy from Stir Crazy.
That's it, yeah. He plays, obviously, the leader of the Boldies. That's a film that I had to, just recently, I really wanted to own a copy, and it's really hard to find, and the DVD copies were always a really poor transfer quality, and so I searched, and I found Journey had a director's cut of it on Blu-ray. Right, so I purchased it. I thought, right, I'll get it, because you can turn the subtitles off, and it's in English. And I bought it, and it's a lovely transfer, and it's got bits in that I hadn't seen before, and love it. Love it to pieces. It's one that's another one that I can switch on at any time and just keep watching. It's great.
For me, when I was, I don't know what age it was, but when I was younger, I loved Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise movies.
Yeah.
So like the Cannonball Run and Smokey and the Bandit 2, I think that's Dom DeLuise in it.
Yes, number 2.
And there's a movie called The End. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Well, I know about it because we've had this discussion.
And it's a very black comedy. Burt Reynolds plays a guy that's got a toxic blood disease and is going to die, but he doesn't want to be bedridden, so he decides he's going to kill himself. And he tries to kill himself with a cocktail of drugs and wakes up in this like a mental asylum. And when he wakes up, just screaming these profanities, and there's a guy that Dom DeLuise is there with a jacket on and taking notes and stuff like that, but he's actually one of the members of the mental asylum. And that scene, I can remember watching it on a Sunday night. It was on BBC 2, and my mum and dad were there, and there's this scene where he's Dom DeLuise is like a paranoid schizophrenic. So one minute he's talking to him nicely, next minute he's going off and he's going mad. And I laughed so much I thought my throat was going to split. It was so funny, and I managed to I've got it on iTunes now. They had it on iTunes for like £5 or something, so I ended up buying it so I could watch it, and it still makes me. It's a really, really. It's a weird film because it's a very black comedy. So it's talking like death. Kirsty McNichol's in it.
Okay, yeah.
And Robbie Benson's in it. And but if you ever get a chance to see it, it's a really, really good movie. But there isn't that many people I know that has actually seen the movie.
Right.
But I love that movie. It's just such a funny film. And Dom DeLuise and Burt Reynolds together were just...
They were a great double act. People underrate, I really think so, the Cannibal Run, the original one.
Yeah, that is
so
hilarious.
funny. It's so funny and so self-parody as well.
Yeah. And the second one sort of played off the same sorts of...
Yeah, it's not quite as...
But the first one... And it was the first movie that had like the outtakes
at the end, yeah.
Hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, that's mine, Stu.
Okay, thanks. So that basically finishes off all the questions, except for one. And you don't actually have this question. It's not a biggie, so there's nothing to worry about. But I mentioned earlier that I used to do radio, obviously, the Falcon, etc. And there was one question that I have absolutely no idea where it came from, and I do not know why I persisted with it, but I used to ask everyone that I interviewed this one question. So I thought I'd dust it down, bring it out, and ask you guys as well. And that question is, have you ever seen a baby pigeon?
Yeah, I think I have, actually.
Not alive.
Only in your pie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have.
You're the first person I've ever asked that has seen a baby pigeon.
The reason I say that, does just the head count?
No. Because you can't prove that's a baby.
We had a pigeon nest in a tree in our garden, and I always remember seeing the little one's head sticking out.
Yeah, no, I don't think they actually exist, Stu.
Well, they do. I've seen the head, unless it's somebody. Remember the guy who used to do finger
mouse?
Maybe he was doing finger pigeon.
Maybe. I think it's like middle-aged Chinese men. You just don't see them around.
Well, my theory is that there's one master wizard pigeon, and he just magics up into their adult form.
Could do.
It's possible.
Reservoir pigeons.
And one person I asked once, a guy called Cliff, he was the lead singer of a band called Gay Dad. Don't know if you remember them from.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Yeah, he said that baby pigeons were hidden away until they were rancid enough to join the adult pigeon population.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, like secret pigeon farms.
Yeah.
But they just like breed them until they're older and then just say, let's go and piss off everybody in London and let them out of Trafalgar Square.
They're not around in Trafalgar Square anymore, though, are they?
Yes, they're not allowed to feed them there, but they're still.
Oh, right.
He also told me that he had 3 pigeons that used to sit on his window ledge that reminded him of the Beverly Sisters.
What, with blonde wigs on?
And on that note, I shall bring this episode of World of Stu to an end. But before I do, it's over to you boys to tell everyone exactly where they can find you.
Right, well, you can go to our website, www.pancast.co.uk is the best place. That's the hub for all of our different podcasts. And if you want to email us, you can at pancast@live.com.
You can find us on Facebook at Pancast Pods.
Yeah, or SoundCloud. You can go to SoundCloud and just put in Pancast. and also on Mixcloud for our Pancast movie show.
Yeah, and also you can follow us on Twitter at Pancast Pod. And also, I would like to say you can find us on iTunes. Just put Pancast, it should bring up all our different podcasts. Please subscribe, listen, and review, and leave a comment. Would be wonderful.
Yes, and very well done on yours.
Yes, thank you very much.
I have been listening.
Yeah, well done. It's like having a child.
Well, I tell you what. The funny thing is, today I listened to the first two parts of your horror rundowns, if you like, and I've never watched. I don't think I've even watched all of Friday the 13th, the first one. But listening to you telling me, I mean, obviously it's all spoilers. I know now what happens in all of the Friday the 13th, but it does make me feel I might want to go and have a watch of a couple of Friday the 13th anyway.
Job done.
So they were very good. They were very good, mate. I enjoyed them.
Yeah, well done to these, Stuart. They're really good.
Well,
really good.
I'd like to thank you, Pavo and Neil, aka the Pancast Boys, for being the first guests on World of Stu. Hey! And I will catch up with you very soon.
Absolutely, mate.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I'll be back with the next episode of World of Stu as and when I get round to recording it. Until then, keep it geek.
You want a podcast? Here's a podcast. You want a podcast? It's the World of Stu.